Hi, good afternoon. It's 1 o'clock. It's lunch break with Ekow Mensah. This is the fourth episode, and I'm so excited to bring this your way. Today, we are discussing an interesting topic. Is being your own boss a good idea? Is being your own boss a good idea? And I'm hoping that at the end of this, especially for those that are thinking of now getting into entrepreneurship or wanted to start your own business, or for those of you who are working and thinking of going through the transition of stopping work and starting your own business, or even figuring out how to start a side gig, or making the decision on whether or not you want to, because being an entrepreneur and doing your own business was considered very risky, and it wasn't the reason why a lot of parents would send their kids to school. So, um, telling your parents, especially after going through university, that I want to start my own business was such a big deal. And even though a lot of parents would show, like they're excited just because they want to be good parents and they want to be supportive, will still express, their concerns about you starting your own business. Now, unlike before, it's more receptive. People are more open to accepting, the lifestyle of being an entrepreneur, and their kids getting into entrepreneurship. And now entrepreneurship is even going down to schools where they have hubs and, entrepreneurial programs and courses and pitch competitions. And now it's becoming a norm. And the world is also getting into the phase where, or it's actually gotten into the phase where now nothing is certain. There isn't anything like job security, because any job can be obsolete at any time. Technology, the advancement of technology, the way the economy is going, and the way the world is going in general, a lot of stable jobs as we knew them are not stable anymore. So entrepreneurship is becoming such a desirable thing for a lot of people. But the truth is it something that is good for you? Um, Being your own boss, is it a good idea? And there's an argument that, is everybody meant to be an entrepreneur? The truth is, everybody can be an entrepreneur, but not everybody can build a business and sustain it. Because the whole point of entrepreneurship is finding a solution to a problem that exists, meeting a specific need, or creating a value for people. So anybody can really do that, but it could be in different contexts. You could be working full time and still be an entrepreneur. You could be a student and still be an entrepreneur. You could be on retirement and still be an entrepreneur. So the question is not necessarily about being an entrepreneur, but being your own boss. People desire being their own boss mainly because of the freedom of their time and wanting to do whatever they want. But then they quickly get into that and then realize that it's not as easy as they thought it would be, because building a business is not about you, it's about the client. So now you've just moved from being employed and being accountable to an employer to self-employment and being accountable to a client. Because at the end of the day, it's either an employer is paying you or a client is paying you, and either ways, both of them call shots. Okay, so as much as a lot of you are desiring entrepreneurship, desiring to have side gigs, side hustles, desiring to transition into owning your own business, entrepreneurship is vastly different from running a business. Okay, so the moment whatever idea you got is growing, you tend to see that, oh wow, okay, so I'm not best fit to probably run this business, and that's why some businesses, depending on where they've gotten to, appoint professional CEOs to run the business. So now that we are looking at this question, is being your own boss a good idea? That is the question I have for you. If you can just put it in the chat box, that would be great if you have an answer to it. But how would you know if being your own boss is a good idea? Because being your own boss is saying that I want to be accountable for myself. I want to hold myself accountable for the results I get. I want to do things my way. I want to do it the way I want. But at the end of the day, to be successful in being your own boss is a reflection of you being successful in your own life. Because if you're not disciplined as a person, when you're your own boss, you still not be disciplined even in your business. if you are not someone that allows people to hold them accountable, you will still be someone in your business that does not allow anybody to hold you accountable. So to be able to answer the question whether being your own boss is a good idea, the first thing you need to do is to examine yourself. What kind of person are you? Because if you don't know who you are, it will be very difficult to determine whether or not being your own boss would be a good idea. Because really, you need to be able to succeed. You need to be able to give people leadership. You need to be able to have a vision and drive people towards that vision. You need to be able to manage people. Earlier today, I wrote about the tolerance level, the 3 tolerance levels that everybody needs to be had to score high on to guarantee a level of success in their business. And those of you who have read it, you realize that I talked about risk. I talked about the people tolerance level. You understand? I talked about change. Because if your risk tolerance level is low, then in the changing scenes of your business, you probably would give up. And if your change tolerance level is low, especially for those of you who don't like change, when things are changing, when COVID came, a lot of you collapsed your business, but some of you also thought about different opportunities and went there. And COVID time tend to be one of your most successful time. So then if your tolerance level for change is low, you tend to give up whenever changes happen. And of course, if your tolerance level for people is also low, you tend to give up when dealing with people becomes overwhelming. And that all constitutes whether or not being your own boss is a good idea. Because it's not as easy as people make it look. Being your own boss is a tough thing. It's a tough decision. It's a tough life to live because on your head lies every responsibility that someone would have taken care of if you were working somewhere. So especially for young people that ever get to see this video or are watching this video, just sit down and think. Because when you're young, you have the opportunity to experiment things and it helps you to, be able to decide on things. But if you don't examine who you are and genuinely and honestly answer the question, whether being your own boss with no level of accountability is a good idea, you are already setting yourself up for disaster. So one of the first thing you need to do in answering the question whether being your own boss is a good idea is look to yourself first. Who are you? Do you even know what temperaments are? Which side of the temperaments are you? Are you a sanguine or a choleric, or you're a melancholic or a phlegmatic? Are you the one that is outgoing or you are the one that is inward looking? Are you the one that you don't mind connecting with anybody, or you are the one that likes to hold off and be in your own space? Are you an extrovert or you're an introvert? Because all that constitutes whether or not you can be a good boss, or whether or not being your own boss is a good idea. Because if you cannot take the initiative to do the things that you expect other people to do, and if you don't have the money enough to pay people that are experienced to be able to do these things for you without supervision, there's no way you're going to succeed. So if you've never heard of temperaments, or it's the first time you're hearing of temperaments, go back and then read about temperaments, because these things have been well studied. And sometimes when you're reading them and you do the temperament test, you do the personality test, you realize that you think it's even prophecy, because who you are is reflected there. When you're a sanguine, everything is light. Everything is, you don't take anything too seriously, and you are almost always excited, overwhelmed. You have too many ideas, and you never really focus. You never really get things done. Sanguines like us are excited about new ideas. We're excited about new people. We're excited about new adventure. So even though we are running our own business, we always have a new idea and we never really do anything solid. And we always have people around us and they never get to do a lot of work because we are overly understanding. We will sit with them and talk about their personal lives. We'll talk about everything. But at the end of the day, if they don't get us the result, because we are sanguines and we don't want to hurt anybody, we tend to understand. So then in that sense, just being a sanguine makes you, not even suitable to be your own boss, because you can't hold people accountable and not feel for them. Sometimes when you're also choleric, you don't really care about people's emotions. Your mother can die, but you have to come to work, and some people call you heartless and all sorts of names. So then knowing that for you, you are driven by result, but sanguines are driven by relationship. What happens is that if you are choleric, You're driven by results. You don't really care how people feel. You just need the work done. And because of that, people feel that you don't care. And when people don't care about your business and they don't care about you being a boss, they don't allow you to lead them. And they don't allow themselves to give you more than you deserve to be giving. And they are driven by salary. All right. So if you're a choleric, you know that, Charlie, you need to balance the equation to be able to get people to be loyal, to be faithful, and to go the long distance with you. If you are phlegmatic and you are melancholic, you realize that you take too much time to make a decision. So your entire team is waiting for you. You are very introspective. You're very structured. You're very, careful. You don't want to offend anybody, but you want to overly think about something before you take a decision. So then you realize that at the end of the day, you take too much time. And if you have people that are driven and want to go and you're holding them back, they get tired and move on. So then you realize that even just being a phlegmatic or a melancholic and overthinking things can put you in a position where you're not even qualified to be your own boss. So the question is really, if you know who you are able to know what your strengths and weaknesses are, and you're able to learn to augment these weaknesses as and when they come, either by yourself or with a partner or somebody else. But at the end of the day, what happens is that if you don't know who you are and you just get on this journey of being a boss, you would fast get into the point of being a self-employed rather than being a business owner. And I'm sure you know the difference, right? Self-employed is the people that have employed themselves and they think they have a business, mainly because the business cannot survive when they're not around. Those are self-employed people. But then business owners are those that don't necessarily have to be around to ensure a business runs. And one day I'm going to do a video on the differences between self-employed and business owners. But here is being a boss, your own boss, a good idea. And we've seen that you start with yourself. What are your temperaments? What are even your experiences? What are the things you've been exposed to? Have you been in an environment that is structured? Have you been in an environment that you've learned how to lead people? Have you been in an environment where you've learned how to deal with different situations? Have you been in an environment where you've allowed yourself to be held accountable for the results that you say you are going to give? Have you been in an environment where you are driven by a destination, and regardless of what the current situation is, you still figure out a way? Are you hungry enough? So you start with yourself. It is very, very important. The more you grow, the more the business grows. And if you realize that, Charlie, these are all the challenges that you're likely to face if you're your own boss, get into an environment where you learn. Because when you learn from people, you learn from different bosses, you learn from different situations, it equips you and builds your capacity to be a good boss when you decide to be your own boss. So take your time, especially if you're young. Don't rush into starting your own business. Don't rush into being your own boss. Don't rush and let the luxury of having your own business overshadow the reasoning of whether or not being your own boss is a good idea. So today, this is the first thing I have for you. I think we're going to continue it as a series, because beyond you, there are other factors that you have to look at in trying to, become your own boss. But the first one is take a look at yourself and introspect. Figure out who you are. What annoys you about yourself? What annoys you about people? What can't you stand when it comes to people? Are you patient enough to wait for the process? Are you tolerant enough? You understand? Are you adaptable enough so that as things are changing, you are able to also adapt and then change alongside it? So the first thing is look onto yourself. Take a good look at yourself, all the experiences you've had, all the things you've learned, all the things you've experienced. Everything comes together to determine whether or not you'll be a good boss. And if you want to go back into your life and check if you've been a good boss, just look at some of the opportunities that you've had to be responsible for something. Responsible for maybe a classroom, responsible for a project, responsible for an event, responsible for a person, responsible even for yourself. Are you impressed with your performance? If you're not, please be humble and get under an authority. so that that person would guide you, that person would lead you, that person would give you, all the tools that you need, that eventually, if you decide to be your own boss, you'll be better at it than if you started earlier. And the truth about these things, and the reason why I am personally passionate about it, is that we have no control of time. And if you don't listen and hear and then do the right thing from the beginning, you realize that time flies so fast that you get to a point where you are older than you need to be, and you've outgrown the opportunities that you could have accessed if you harnessed those opportunities earlier in life, and you tend to regret more than celebrate. Okay, you tend to regret more than rejoice. So my mission is to help people to avoid the mistakes that I have made, and also to help people to be able to gain clarity in the things that they want to do. And that's one of the reasons why I'm even doing these videos every day, because people need to hear this. You don't have to get to 30, 35, 40 before you realize that, oh, I shouldn't have been my own boss when I was 25. If I'd gone to work for somebody, I would have built the experience and the capacity to be my own boss, and even to build my savings, my investments, to be able to create a system that now even the people I bring in, I don't have to work too hard to groom them to be able to deliver the results I'm looking for. So the first thing is, look to yourself first. Do you qualify to be your own boss? There are so many tests online, personality test, temperament test. Like, be so curious about yourself. Let yourself be one of the things that you discover and research on every day. Because you see, everything that is going to happen to you would happen to you because you either don't know yourself, you know yourself too well, or you've just, left yourself vulnerable to what people say, what people do, and how people act. And if you don't have defenses against what people say, what people do, and how people act, you realize that everything matters to you. Everything they do, everything people say, everything you see, everything that is happening around you matters to you. And it affects even the decisions you make as an individual and a boss. So that's the first thing I have for you today. I'm going to continue this series next Thursday. So particularly on is being your own boss a good idea, I'll continue it next Thursday and give you the second thing you need to help to make a decision. Is being your own boss a good idea? The first thing to do to be able to figure that out is, who are you, and have you ever even had an experience of leading anything, and how did you perform? Do you know what your temperaments are? Do you know what the strengths and weaknesses of those temperaments are? Do you know what your personality is? Do you know what you can tolerate and what you cannot? Do you know if you can stand it when you get broke in business? Don't be in a hurry. Trust me, I don't know what your concept is about business and all that, but there are people that are working for people who are well off and fulfilled. And some of us are driven by so much passion that we fail to sit down and think that pursuing a life of fulfillment is not necessarily just working for yourself. Sometimes it's just humbling yourself enough to work for somebody and support somebody else's dream and build a capacity so that by the time you're ready to go off on your own, you have everything it takes to perform excellently. But until then, don't be in a hurry. And if you've already taken that decision and you feel lost and overwhelmed in this moment, don't worry. Go back to the fundamentals. It's just the beginning of the year. Start studying who you are and how you behave the way you behave. And then find role models and mentors and coaches around you that can help shape you. And the one thing you can do that would also help you as a person is subject yourself to accountability. It's not easy. I'm still struggling with it. And every year I try to, because you see, when you allow yourself to be held accountable for the result you say you're going to achieve, it helps you to move so fast and be successful. And you would realize that it's something that you should probably have done a long time ago. And that's why businesses have board of directors. And sometimes even CEOs can be fired, because it's not just about wanting to be your own boss. It's about leadership and whether or not you are able to even lead yourself enough to lead somebody else. So that is what I have for you. Is being your own boss a good idea? I'll come back with part 2 of this next week, Thursday, so that we would examine these things. And for those of you who are already in business, we would look at why it's not going the way you desire it to go and what you can do about it so that this year will be a very successful year for you. So if you have any comments, if you have any contributions, please do share. And those of you who are concerned whether I'll be able to sustain this or not, I think the best thing you can do for me is to share and tell others about this, especially if you find my live videos valuable. Until then, I'll come your way again tomorrow at 1 p.m., God willing. All the best, especially in your quest to be your own boss. Bye bye.